So next speaker, Bob Pritchett. He'll be speaking on the topic, Fire Someone Today, Entrepreneurial Lessons from the Front Line. Just to summarize a few points, I went down with actually I met some of my friends from the great state of Washington. The Washington delegation is right here, by the way. And yeah, that's it. Usually you're a bit more enthusiastic. Usually there's like a massive roar that comes up. Terry Smith? No? They're rather passive. I'm not sure what it is. The long distance must have dulled their enthusiasm. Respect. Oh, they're modeling the speaker. They're all being very quiet. Thank you. So Bob is based down in Bellingham, and how many of you are familiar with Logos Bible software? Yeah, look, there's your proof right there. So getting Bob to come up and speak, I mean, he's just across the border in Bellingham, which isn't that far, but just to get somebody like Bob who has that type of company that people are familiar with, to me is such a great addition to the lineup today. Bob is the founder and CEO of what is the world's largest maker of Bible software with 250 employees and sales of $35 million. And having visited his premises, it's really fascinating. If you have a chance to chat with him about some of the employment practices that a high-tech company uses, absolutely cutting edge, extremely fascinating. He has been, I'm not sure what that, was that an amen or a hallelujah? He has been programming computers since he was 8 years old. As a freshman in high school, he founded a software company and developed and marketed programming tools used worldwide. He left high school a year early to attend Drexel University in Philadelphia, where he majored in computer science. After a second internship at Microsoft, he left Drexel early to accept the position as one of Microsoft's youngest program managers. In 1992, Bob co-founded Logos Research Systems and serves as president and CEO. Bob speaks regularly at industry conferences and to academic groups on entrepreneurship, electronic publishing, and digital libraries. Logos has 9 editions, starting at $149.95. The software shows the original Hebrew or Greek in which the text was written, audio and how to pronounce words, and access to maps and photos of historic sites. While pastors value the product, 2/3 of users are individuals looking to use it for their own account. And the people I know who use it, it's people like that who use it for their own account. He is a 2005 winner of Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award. It was included in the Puget Sound Business Journal's 40 Under 40. Bob's first book, Fire Someone Today, and Other Surprising Tactics for Making Your Business a Success, was released in April 2006. Bob, look forward to your remarks.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to share with you today. What I'm going to talk about is business truth and business lies. I know that business lies probably isn't what you expect at a conference for Christian entrepreneurs, but I think that looking at the business lies that we tell is really important to running our businesses well, particularly for entrepreneurs. And when I say business lies, I don't talk about lying to our customers or lying to our employees. I don't think that most businesses do that or get away with it for very long. I think the most dangerous business lies and the ones that are most common are the ones we tell ourselves. They're the lies about our own motivations or about our own attitudes about what we're doing in the business. So I'm going to look at 3 of those business lies today, which I think are really key for Christian business people. One of the first ones, and a particular temptation for Christian business people, is to believe the lie that we tell ourselves that we're doing it for some sense of mission that's more important, that the business is about the mission, or it's about the customers, or it's about the community we're serving, or our employees. And those are all very important things and good things to do. But really, at the heart, business has to be about profit. In fact, in the U.S., it legally has to be about profit. Otherwise, the IRS comes after you for your tax deductions. As someone who ran a Bible software company, and the reason I'm so familiar with these business lies is because I've told them all of myself and have made a lot of mistakes in the process of growing our company. I really believed that we had a mission as a company. I mean, we sell Bible software to pastors and missionaries and seminary students. I mean, if anybody had a mission in a business, it was us. And that mission, I believed, was more important than the profit. I spent years at the beginning of the company in which I didn't look at the profit. Now, it helped that the first few years we were growing at over 100% a year, and you've probably all heard the phrase, sales fixes everything. When you're growing at 100% a year, every year or more, you don't really have to look at the profit numbers. Tomorrow, more money's coming in than yesterday. And it's very easy to get caught up in that idea that we're doing something important or accomplishing a mission or serving the customers. But ultimately, it's profit that's the foundation of all of those things. And it seems obvious, but it's very easy to get caught in that temptation of believing that we're doing something other than making a profit. But profit is the foundation of the pyramid of our mission, our customers, our employees, our community, and ultimately at the very top, the corporate jet, which we've not yet gotten to. But looking forward to that. When we, in our company, lost sight of making a profit, things went down pretty fast. We had grown, like I said, 5 years in a row at 100% a year. And then 1 year, just as we were planning the next round of amazing things we were going to do with our product, sales flatlined. So from 100% growth to 0% growth in 12 months. And it happened so fast, we didn't even see it. It just, like, we looked around and said, well, today sales should be $9 million. And wait, isn't that, those are last year's numbers. What are they doing here? But it wasn't last year's numbers. It was the same numbers again. So we had to rapidly make changes in the company, and we put in place a very powerful business flow chart that we ran all decisions through. And this chart saved our company. We took every decision, every time somebody wanted to do something new, make a hire, do something new in the marketing plan, every one of these things went through this flow chart. So I'm going to share this powerful business tool with you right now. If it's profitable, you can consider it. If it's not profitable, don't do it. It's an amazingly powerful tool in business decision making. What I found, though, is that even a powerful and simple tool like this, people find ways around it, because as simple as this is, people want to, they've got this thing that we really ought to do, and I know I can't show you it's profitable, but we ought to do it. And I've discovered that probably the number one way that people attack doing profitable things in business is with the use of the word strategic. So we're all familiar with the word strategic, of or relating to strategy. But in the process, I learned that strategic actually has a second meaning that's less well known. Strategic's second definition is wasting lots of money, as in this strategic project will change customer perceptions or something like that. So in our company, we took a new strategy on profit we did this in 1997 and basically turned the company around and have been in good shape ever since. What I realized through the experience of not being able to take a paycheck, having to be late on paying some of my bills, all these different things, is I realized that as bad as things were, there were always things we didn't mess with. We never messed with the IRS, right? We always sent the money to the IRS because we knew that you're in big trouble if you don't send the money to the IRS. And we always sent the money to the landlord because we had to have some place to come to work every day and deal with things. And I always paid the mortgage at the house. Even if I didn't have the paycheck or had to put other things off, I wanted to have a place to sleep at night. And I realized that in your business, there are line items that you can consider essential and don't ever give up. So we turn profit into a line item. So it's very simplistic, what I call lemonade stand accounting. I have probably the least sophisticated approach to business finance of anyone in the room. We run it very much like a lemonade stand, and one of the things we do at our lemonade stand is we put profit right next to payroll, cost of goods, rent, right there as a line item. So we have a minimum profit that we're looking for every year. That profit's written into the plans, and we actually put it in the expense column. So it's not at the bottom. For most people, there's the income and there's the expenses, and then profit's the bottom line. We have profit in the expense line, and then the bottom line isn't profit, that's the gravy line. And we keep that separate from the profit line. It's been very productive for us. It keeps us focused. Also, we try to confuse people about that and obscure it sometimes with different labels. And for a long time, we had an account that was just labeled with something like, data processing or something. And people are like, oh, what's the data fund? Oh, it's an important reserve. We have to accumulate the data reserve, and the profit was the data. So moving on to truth number 2. One of the other lies that we believe, particularly as entrepreneurs, is that we have the most beautiful baby. But the truth is that nobody loves your baby like you do. I started out in the technology side of the business. So I was always interested in business, but I was a software developer. I was building a software product, and it was a fantastic software product. It still is. It is elegant. It is beautiful. The code is beautifully architected. It is technically a fantastic product, and I could bore you for hours with why it's better than all the other software products. But you don't care. It turns out nobody cares. People care about their own baby, their own needs, their own concerns. Entrepreneurs, I think, are more susceptible to falling to this prey to this lie than other people, because entrepreneurs, it's your own product, it's your own baby. The company is this child that you've given birth to and raised and taught and watched take its first steps and hire its first employee and get customers. And we fall in love with our product, but nobody cares. One of the dangers of doing that is that we work with people who we can't get in alignment, and alignment is really key for being successful in business. And I think that it's important that you have three groups of people aligned. You need to have your vendors aligned. You have to have your vendors, your employees, and your customers aligned. For us, one of the ways we learned to align our vendors was to find vendors where we could be about 5% of their business. And that's just a particular metric that we chose that worked for us. I used to think that you wanted to run with the big dogs, right? We're going to be in the big leagues. We want to play with the big league players. We didn't have the resources or the skills or the assets to play with the big dogs. We would work with a big company. I worked with a big Seattle law firm at first because they were professionals and they knew what they were doing. They charged me a quarter-hour minimum every time we picked up the phone and talked to them. Once they misbilled me 2.5 hours for a quarter hour, and at their rate that was so bad I had to call up and complain. I called up, said, "You misbilled me." They said, "You're right." They wrote it down. I got a bill the next month for a quarter hour for that call. All right? I can't afford to play with the big guys. I found a new attorney who was also a smart person, but was willing to take a 5-minute call for free because he was making his money on the relationship. I was an important client to the smaller attorney. I was nobody to the big Seattle attorney. So we work hard to find partners where we can be a significant part of their business, something that they can care about. The same thing with employees. I remember it was a few years into the business when I first had the realization that other people didn't want to stay all night like I did at the office. And one of my long time employees, who is a close friend, once made it very clear to me. We were having some conversation. I was expressing some frustration, kind of a moment of shared intimacy about my feeling that these other people didn't get it and weren't on mission and weren't really team players. And he said, "Bob, if we're not like you, if we were like you, we would never work for you." And I thought that's really an important thing to remember. It's not their baby. They aren't going to stay all night to work on this. Some of them will. And I wanted to find out why did some of them. And I found out that it wasn't because they loved my baby or they shared the vision for the product. It was something else. There was always a motivation of their own. Some people wanted to make more money. Some technical people wanted to have control over the design of the product and the architecture, and they got their pleasure from designing the coding framework. Other people, it was about getting their salary level up to where they could afford to qualify for a mortgage and buy their first home. And so since then, I've tried to find ways to align my interests and what I want for the company with my employees' interests, to actually go and talk to them and find out what their interest is. I had one employee who I just wanted to keep happy so much. He was fantastic. He was a great asset. I just wanted to make sure there was no reason in the world that this employee would leave. I wanted to make sure there was no reason his family members would ask him to leave. And I said, we're paying you a lot. We're taking care of you. You can have all the vacation time you want. Is there anything that we could do that would make your life better? And he said, "Well, my wife always wanted to watch a baseball game from one of those luxury suites. That's about the only thing I can think of we haven't done that we'd love to do." I took the whole team to the luxury suite at Safeco Field, rented it so we could take his wife to see the game, because I wanted to make sure there was nothing about our business that wasn't in alignment with his goals. The last thing we need alignment with is the customers. We're all familiar with the build a better mousetrap, the world will beat a path to your door story. And we all know it isn't true, because in the end, people don't buy features, people buy the benefits. They value what the product does for them. But it's a lesson that we just never can hear enough. I have to be reminded of it constantly, because particularly in software, we're a world of giving you more features than you want or need all the time. We just shipped Logos 5 last week. If you get it, it's full of features. I could talk about them for a long time. But I don't think any of you care about those features. You'd care about what those features could do for you. Do they save a pastor time in sermon preparation? Do they encourage people to stay in the Bible every day or to do a devotional reading every day? People aren't interested in a better mousetrap. People are interested in a mouse-free future. My favorite story about alignment and kind of loving your baby is Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders is one of my entrepreneurial heroes. I read his autobiography when I was like 12 years old. He didn't start Kentucky Fried Chicken until he was in his 60s. which I think right there is an inspiration to a lot of us to think that it's, we have all these high-tech entrepreneurs that start companies as teenagers or college students, but here's somebody who's built a business that has gone all around the world. If you go to China, you see KFCs everywhere. You go to Africa, you see KFCs. And that business is something that he didn't start till where most people would say it was time for retirement. And Colonel Sanders was passionate about those 11 herbs and spices. He believed in his Kentucky Fried Chicken. He believed in his pressure cooking method for making tender fried chicken. And when he started, he didn't have restaurants. There weren't franchise fast food restaurants when he started. Kentucky Fried Chicken started in his little restaurant by his motel. And then it was so popular, he started licensing the Kentucky Fried Chicken to other restaurants. So he would go up and down the highways before the interstate system, or at the beginning of that, and he would find little restaurants and diners, and he would give them a pressure cooker, a barrel of his secret 11 herbs and spices, show them how to make Kentucky Fried Chicken, and they paid him a royalty of 5 cents a bird. And that's how Kentucky Fried Chicken got started. And my favorite story from his book is about the guy who decided that the pressure cooker was too much hassle, and so he was just frying the chicken with another technique, using the herbs and spices but doing it differently. But there was already a brand being built, so the guy called it Kentucky Fried Chicken, but he wasn't following the process and making the chicken right. So Colonel Sanders, around age 70, got in his truck real early one morning, drove over to this guy's place, went in the back door, crawled under the counter, got the pressure cooker, got the barrel of spices, put them in the back of his vehicle. They went around to the front, told the person who was opening up the restaurant, you tell the owner he's out of the KFC business. He's not representing me anymore or making my chicken. Took it home. And I think that's just an amazing story of the kind of the passion that entrepreneurs have for their business and how they have to protect that because nobody else cared. And ultimately, nobody else really cared about serving Kentucky Fried Chicken the way the Colonel wanted Kentucky Fried Chicken served. So he ended up creating a chain of restaurants so that he could control that process. And that's why we have the independent KFC outlets today, because no one else at their restaurant, maybe they were all about, Martha's Pies. Maybe they were all about their steak. Nobody else would love the chicken. Ultimately, he had to do it himself. So I'm going to finish with the third and hardest truth. And I think this is the hardest truth, particularly for Christian entrepreneurs, is somebody needs to go. The title of my book is Fire Someone Today, and it's not all about firing people, but that is the hardest lesson I had to learn in business, and the one that I find that most entrepreneurs struggle with the most, and particularly Christian entrepreneurs, because many Christian entrepreneurs look at their company differently than other people. They look at it as a family or as a mission field or as some way in which they are more intimately involved in the lives of their employees and coworkers than they would be in some other job or business. But somebody needs to go. If you have more than a handful of employees, there's probably somebody who is on your team who needs to be off your team. There's lots of reasons for this. There's lots of different kinds of people who need to go. Because everybody's unique, and there's so many stories and so many reasons, I found it's convenient to kind of create some buckets, and then we could just toss the people into them. So we'll start with the whiner. The whiner is the employee who is only happy when they're whining. The whiner, you all have met the whiner. The whiner doesn't like the way we're doing the new thing, doesn't like the new logo, doesn't like the new marketing plan, doesn't like the new company policy. The whiner sucks all the joy out of the organization, takes all the joy from the other people, makes for an unpleasant workplace. The slacker. The slacker is all over your organization. You'll find slackers everywhere. You'll find slackers in the lobby reading the paper. You'll find slackers at other people's desks, talking to them, catching up on the weekend. You'll find slackers in the lunchroom and taking a leisurely lunch, maybe having a long coffee break. It is actually possible to find slackers at their desks because that's where they usually go to surf the internet. So you can look for them everywhere. The incompetent, often well-intentioned, eager, hardworking. The incompetent employees are people who can be difficult to deal with because often they bring the right attitude, they bring the right energy, they want to do a good job, they just aren't doing that good job. The troublemaker. I used to have a lot of trouble with the troublemakers because they would cause me a lot of frustration. The troublemakers are the ones who are stirring up the other employees. They often do the work well. They're competent at their job. They get the work done, but they're always out there getting everyone else riled up. The troublemakers are the people who are creating the us versus them divisions, the people who are getting the coworkers around them organized into a group to complain about this or that, or oftentimes getting someone else to complain about it. I've had many experiences where there was somebody who was the troublemaker in a particular group or organization, poisoning the attitudes of everyone around them and getting other people to go make their point or advance their cause. The misfit. The misfit is the wrong person in the wrong job. We all have them. Despite the best of intentions, the best attempt to hire the right person to fit the job to the person, sometimes you hire somebody and they don't fit. They don't work out. And of course, the redundant. This is what I think of as the innocent of the categories. The redundant is the number 2 person in a job that needs 1 person. Oftentimes this comes as technology changes. You know, we needed 3 clerks to do this job, but now we have new software and new tools, and we only need 2 clerks to do this job. And we still have this other one hanging around. So how do you know when to fire? The answer is you already know. And that's what the point of my talk is to give you the encouragement to act on what you already know. Every time I give this presentation, there's people in the room who, as soon as they start seeing these categories or see the topic, they think, that sounds like Joe. Joe's your guy. That's who you're looking for. We all know where the problem is. We all know who needs to go. And it's not when you have that person who comes to mind, when you have that person who pops into your head when somebody talks about this, it's already way too late. You've already tried to give them training. You've already had a talk with them about performance. You've already tried to find a different position in the company where they would do a better job. You've already thought about their skills and how you could apply them somewhere else. You've already been through all that, and that's why they're on your mind. You're thinking about Joe because Joe needs to go. And yet, we're reluctant to fire. And I think the reasons we're reluctant to fire are really important to look at, and a part of telling ourselves the truth instead of lying to ourselves. I think one of the biggest reasons we're reluctant to fire is we want to be Mr. Nice Guy. We want to be kind or generous. We perceive that our employment to someone is a kind of gift or something we're doing for other people. We are creating this job. We're helping them provide for their family. We are helping them grow or advance or creating this area of opportunities. And particularly for Christian entrepreneurs where we might have a closer relationship, we might go to church with our employees, the employees go to church with each other, might know each other outside of the workplace. We feel this sense of kind of a paternal or maternal responsibility, like we have some kind of control or responsibility for our employees' lives. But if we don't act on this, if we don't confront this truth that we need to make changes in who we hire, there's some negative consequences. For the employee that we don't fire, there's actually negative consequences. If you think about it, when you have somebody who needs to go in your organization, how often do you give that person a raise? Maybe never. If you have somebody who needs to go in your organization, somebody who's not working out, how often do you come by and say, you're doing a great job? How often do they win Salesperson of the Year? How often does that person who needs to go be named Employee of the Month? How often do they get the encouragement and the feedback and the nurturing and the growth? How much do we invest in training people who we don't think are long for the company? And yet we hold these people in the company maybe for a year, 2 years, while we don't act, during which they don't get a raise, they don't get a promotion, they don't get training, they don't grow or get developed, they don't get encouraged. We send a message to their coworkers as well. The message to the coworkers is, nobody's watching, nobody cares. Good performance isn't a standard for working in our organization. It doesn't really matter what you do. You could stop working too and you'd be fine, just like Joe. Because the coworkers always know long before we do. I mean, I have never once let somebody go in my organization and not had someone else who worked with them come up and say, I was wondering when that was going to happen, or why did it take so long? Or yeah, I was, I'll have a meeting sometimes, say, I'll just make sure everybody in this department's okay, and, Joe left this week, but I just want to make sure you all know we're doing a great job. And somebody's like, yeah, Joe hasn't been delivering for months. We were wondering when you were going to figure that out. But if we don't take care of it, we're sending a message to those coworkers that it's okay and it doesn't matter. The most important thing, I think, that happens when we don't fire, particularly, again, for Christian entrepreneurs, is what it does to us. I've found in my own experience that when I don't make the changes that are necessary, it creates a pride problem, because I start to think about this person who I know isn't working out in this job, and how I'm continuing to pay them every 2 weeks and sign their paychecks. And I'm really a very generous person, and I'm really very kind. And because this person doesn't deserve this, but I'm giving it to them anyways, that really just shows what a great person I am, and what a great company it is, and how we're supporting a community and putting money into the employees. And I'm really quite generous if you think about it, because if you consider what Joe's doing and how I'm responding to that, I'm being quite generous and quite merciful, and it builds up. And at the same time that feeling of pride is building up is a feeling of resentment, like Joe's taking money out of my pocket, but I'm putting up with it. And it really poisons your own attitude if you let that fester and continue. So if you have to make this change, now I share just quickly how I came to this particular experience. This lesson, I wish I could say I learned it on my own, but I got it from a friend in an entrepreneur's organization. We were having a conversation once, and somebody had brought up at the table the issue they were having with this or that employee, and it was obvious to everyone else in the room what needed to happen. And since it wasn't my employee, it was obvious to me too. You're holding on to somebody who needs to go. And one of the other wiser, more experienced business people said, you're doing this person a disservice. You're holding them back from what they should be doing. You're preventing them from an opportunity to be in a job where they could be successful, where they could be encouraged, where they could be rewarded and grow. You're holding them back and acting like you're doing them a favor. So I went home from that meeting, and I fired the guy who I needed to fire for a year. I had hired this person as a salesperson, and he wasn't a very good salesperson. I'd moved him into several different sales positions, and he hadn't made it. I'd moved him into running the shipping department, and he wasn't doing a good job there. Our costs were up. The other people in the shipping department were unhappy. It was terrible. But I lived in a small town of 20,000 people where everybody seemed to know everybody, and it just was so painful to think of firing this person. And I took on all this responsibility. I thought, if we fire John, what's he going to do? How's he going to eat? How's he going to take care of his family? He's got kids. It's a small town. Who else is going to employ him? But I came home from that meeting. I thought, I'm holding John back, and we're destroying the company. I'd gotten to the point where the department that worked with him was ready to quit. And I let John go, and it was just incredibly painful. The first kind of straight-out firing I'd done in the company after years of being in business. A couple weeks later, my mother, who worked in the company, comes to me and says, I ran into John's wife at the grocery store, and I just cringed inside. I thought, oh, I'm going to hear something awful, and I'm going to feel terrible. And my mother says, John's wife said to tell you she's so glad that you guys fired John, because he was miserable in his job and he hated it, and he's had a couple weeks now to take stock of what he wants to do, and he's going to go into ministry. And John did go into ministry. He went back to school. He went to seminary. He became a youth pastor, then a senior pastor. And when I'm not making this up, as I was writing this book, John happened to be back in town after he'd moved to another state, came by my office to say hi. My son happened to be there that day, and he walks in and says, I introduced him to my son. He says, Jacob, the best thing that ever happened to me was when your father fired me. I thought, wow, what a powerful lesson there. Now, I'm not saying everybody we've let go considers it a happy experience immediately. I'm pretty sure that's not the case. But I spent a year trying to force John into a hole that wasn't right for him. And it turns out it wasn't just that he wasn't right for that job there. His heart and his life needed to be in ministry. And he's been much more successful in ministry than he ever was as a salesperson at a Bible software company. And I spent a year holding him back from that, keeping him from finding that, and doing all these negative consequences I've shared with you. So I hope that out of this I can give you a little encouragement to confront the business truths in your life. I've got a few little tips if you do need to go home and set someone free for the next episode of their life. I like to think of firing someone as a very short PowerPoint presentation. Although I highly recommend not using PowerPoint. It doesn't come across right. But the first point of your presentation is you're fired, and there's no ambiguity in it, and there can't be any weasel words or gentle conversation because everyone knows what it means, and all you can do is confuse things. You're not going to be working here anymore, and here's why, and that is usually one sentence, because anything more than one sentence is something you can have an argument about, but one sentence is all that you're going to get from us. And we need a few things from you: your keys, your computer, your parking pass. And you need a few things from us, information on your healthcare benefits and your severance package, and goodbye. And this is how we've run our business now, and trying hard to confront that truth over and over and over. But it's difficult, and it's why I keep wanting to talk about this subject, because I need to go home and remind myself about it over and over and over and not fall into that trap of, well, I've finally gotten successful enough or big enough or that we can continue to, to absorb employees who aren't doing a great job or aren't in the right place. So the lessons I've learned are that business truths are uncomfortable. They're not a lot of fun. They're not things people want to confront. But it's much easier to tell business lies. It's easier to say that I'm not about making a profit. I have a mission to do whatever it is. It doesn't sound so good to say the truth, which is this isn't the right place for you. It's much easier to say we just need to find the right thing for you, and we'll take time and work it out. But ultimately, from my own experience, I can tell you that the business lies we tell ourselves pave the road to ruin, and when we confront the truth, it opens up opportunities for success. So, thank you very much.